Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Ayin Hey in קידושין, as we learned for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael on the Sunnah Batzar Shivya. So we'll start from where we left off yesterday, 5 lines from the bottom of Ayin Dalet on the base. A boy, in order for him to have what's called bia, has to be 9 years old. A girl, 3 years old. But for a boy, 9 years old. If a boy has bia at less than the age of 9, it's not even a bia. So even if a woman, an adult woman, seduces him, and we hold that she would be chayav misa even if it's Eid Masra, but if it was with a child, a boy who's less than 9, it's not bia. But if he's 9 years old, then he is a psul kohen. He can't marry a kohen. For example, a ger, Ammoni, Moavi, Mitzri, Adomi, Kuti, Netzin, Halal, Mamzer. All these people are puzzled to marry. Some of them can't even marry Jews, right? They're all puzzled to marry Jews. If they marry a Shabo al Kahanas al Levi Yisrael, if they live certainly with a Bas Kohen, it ruins her from eating Truma and from marrying Kohen. But even though Levi Bas Yisrael would ruin her from marrying a Kohen. If any of these psulim, either a ger is not possible to marry a Yisrael, but a ger, a moni, he's a convert who's an Ammoni or Moavi, or a Mitzri Adomi, or a Kuti, as we'll see. Kuti is a real stuff of what they are. It could be their mamzerim, but a sin b'chalal umamzer. All these people ruin women from marrying a Kohen or from eating truma. Okay, period. That's what the Tanna Kama says, and that's how we hold. Rav Yossi is more makel. Now, what do you mean more makel? He's more lenient. How does he? He says, well, it depends. Kol shazaro posel. Only if he ruins his children does he passel the mother. In other words, even if through that bia the children are ruined, they are blemished. There's a small fight. Then the mother cannot marry a kohen and cannot eat truma. Only if the children are ruined. Well, isn't that the same? Kosher ain't zar apostle. If the children aren't ruined, ain't apostle. What difference is there between the Tanakama? In any of these cases, aren't the children ruined also? If it's a geramoni, his kids are geramoni. If it's a mamzer, the kids are mamzerim. So we'll see there's a difference between Tanakama and Rav Yossi. Shimon Gamliel's make it even more. He says, if you can marry the daughter of this person, you can marry the almana also. In other words, the kohen can marry an almana of this person. Even though we just said, aren't these all psulim? Well, yeah, the Tanakama says, yeah, any one of these psulim, a geramoni mavi is not supposed to intermarry, a mitzri, adomi, kuti, and a sinchal mamzer. None of these people, a halal can marry a Yisrael, but again, it would ruin her from eating truma and from marrying a kohen. So Mulio says it depends. If you can marry the daughter, you can marry the almana. If the kohen can marry the daughter of this child, then you could marry the almana. Well, wouldn't in all these cases you wouldn't be able to marry the daughter? In other words, if the kohen can't, if the mother is ruined, the daughter would also be ruined from marrying. So what do we mean by that? So we'll see. There's 2 exceptions. But we'll see. The Tanakama is the way we hold. Rav Yossi is a little bit more makel. Shmuel is even more makel than that. How do we say? Ma'ika is more makel than Tanakama than Rav Yossi. What's we see in Tanakama and Rav Yossi? Tanakama says you marry any of these people, if you sleep with any of these people, cohabit with any of these people, that ruins you from marrying a kohen ever again. And Rav Yossi says, well, if the child is puzzled, then it's puzzled. So what do you mean by that? The child would be puzzled. Wouldn't the child be puzzled from any of these unions? Remember we said a Mitzri who converts, a real Egyptian, we don't know who they are today. Today it's all Ishmael and Arabs a little bit. But the real Egyptian, when he converts, the first generation, he can only marry a ger or another Mitzri or a Domi, right? He can't marry first generation. The second generation also can only marry Mitzri Adam. There's a question if he marries a first generation, does the child become a second generation or is it a third generation? But the third generation is regular Yisrael. The third generation, others, the grandfather was a Mitzri. He married another Mitzri convert. They were converts, of course. They weren't goyim. They converted. But even as a convert, they can only marry first generation Mitzrayim. But the third generation is a full Jew. So here's what he says. Listen. You say, the Tanakama said if a Mitzri sleeps with a woman, she can never marry a Kohen. Depends. If the Mitzri who sleeps with a Jewish woman, Kohen Levi Yisrael, is a Mitzri Sheni, what is his child? A full Yisrael. So Rav Yossi says, you know what? If the children are puzzled, but if the children aren't puzzled, in other words, if this Mitzri Sheni sleeps with a Jewish woman, right? She's not puzzled from marrying a Kohen. Okay, why? Because her child is kosher. Her child is a mitzvah shlishi. So he says, Rav Yossi's makel in that respect. So that's the difference between them. Now we don't hold that way necessarily. That's Rav Yossi's opinion. But both the Tanakama and Rav Yossi learned out of the same idea. Look at a Kohen Gadol who marries on Mara. Kohen Gadol is not allowed to marry on Mara, right? Right? He's not allowed to take it on Mara. Tanakama Saviki Kohen Gadol. Right, the Almana, my Kohen Gadol, the Almana should be also, but you're not allowed to. Who posts a bar and he ruins her. If a Kohen Gadol marries an Almana, he turns her into a halala. Of course, should be, and she can never marry a Kohen again or eat truma. Of course, should be also, but they are post. So the same. That's what Tanakam says. Yossi sovereign of the Kohen Gadol Almana. My Kohen Gadol Shazar Apostle, just by Kohen Gadol Zar Apostle. Of course, Shazar Apostle. Only if the children be Apostle. Lapuki Mitzvah Sheni, Shane's our Apostle. Mitzvah Sheni's children are not Apostle. Therefore, if a Mitzvah Sheni slept with a woman, that woman would be able to marry a Kohen. The Amrikra, how do we know that? The children of the third generation, Yavam Kal Hashem, they're full Yisraelim in all respects. Shimon Leil, the third opinion, he says, Kol Shatanos will be if you can marry the daughter, Taras Maluso. Kol Shatanos says, Bito, Yatanos Maluso, hence if you can marry the daughter or not. Mike ben Rabbi Yosef Shimon Leil. Rabbi Yossi also says, Rabbi Yossi said that if you can marry if the child is not puzzle, then the mother's not puzzled, right? The child is puzzled. In the case of like Mitzvah Sheni, who marries Israel, since the child's not puzzled, how is that different from Shimon? If you can marry the daughter, you can marry the mother. Now listen to this. A gera money, what do we learn? Lo yavo amon amov b'kal Hashem, right? They're not allowed to come in forever, right? And what do we darshan? Amon below amonis. Moavi must. That's how Rus was able to come into the Jewish family, right? Gera money, listen to this. They also learn Kohen Gadol about Rav Yossi. So we keep going Gadol. The Almana, my Kohen Gadol, the Almana Shazaro Apostle. The Kohen Gadol marries an Almana. His children are Apostle, right? They're Chalalim. Who postel and he ruins the Almana from ever marrying the Kohen again. Of course, Shazar Apostle. As long as he has children are Apostle, so some Apostle. Now, a Geramoni Moabi. What are his children? He's not allowed to Yavah B'Kal Hashem, right? So if he marries a Jewish woman, the children are Apostle also. They're like Geramoni Moabi. The same thing. They're Ammon and Moabites. They're apostle. Shemulio. And therefore, since the children are apostle, if the children are apostle, the mother is apostle. So if a ger ammonium Moabi. Again, we're talking about converts. A convert married an almana, married a Jewish woman. Doesn't have to be almana. Any Jewish woman. Since the boys that they have would be ger ammonium Moabi, it's forbidden. So there's our apostle, then the wife would also be apostle. The woman that the Geramoni Moabi married would also be apostle to marry the Kohen. Shimon Leil says, look at this way. Makon Gadol Masha calls our apostle. Kohen Gadol marries an Amana, whether he has a boy or a girl, the children as a halal or halala, each one of his apostle. Av kol calls our apostle. All his children are apostle. Afil and Kavis, even girls. Puki Geramoni Moabi, then a Kavis, Havu Ksheris, that Kavis have a Ksheris Lavakol. A Geramoni Moabi can't marry he's not supposed to marry a Jewish woman, right? He can marry another convert. What happens if they have a daughter? Ammon below Ammonis. The daughters are kosher. Daughters are Jewish girls. Especially, it's a strange case, right? It's a real strange one. A mamzer, we know every kid's a mamzer. Halal, every boy or girl. When it comes to Ammon and Moab, Mitzri makes them it's boy or girl. First or second generations, they're Mitzrim. But Ammon and Moab is a different thing. If an Ammonite woman, a Goyish woman, converts, she's a full Jew. She's a ger, but she's a full Jew. She can marry, right? An Ammoni man can never marry forever. Huh?
Her children are kings.
Her children can be kings, right? That's right. Exactly. That's the story. So here he says that. So Rav Shimon Leil says, listen, only if all the children are apostle. So a ger Ammoni Moavi who marries a Jewish woman, since some of his children will be kosher, because since the girls are kosher, then he doesn't that union of the ger Ammoni Moavi with this Jewish woman does not ruin her from marrying the Kal. Now, Rav Shimon Leil is more makel than Rav Yossi, who's more makel than the Kam. We all like the Tanakama. Damar, as we said, Ammon below Ammonis, Moavi below Ammonis. Amar Chisda. All right, so we have these three opinions. Hakamana Amana Isa. Amanas Isa is a strange thing. Shepsulakon. Amanas Isa means the Amana of a person who is a suffix halal. How do you have a suffix halal? So it's really like Gemara's going to say it's like a specs vacus. We're not really sure if he's a halal or not. And a halal, if he's a halal, live with an amana, so then the kids are halal, right? But over here, this Almana Sisa, we're not sure if he's a Chalal or not. So there are all kinds of cases brought down. We're not sure who the father was, not sure if he's a Chalal or not. Could be a case where Rashi and Sibus brings down the case where this woman got divorced from her Cohen husband, and we're not sure if the divorce was closer to her or closer. We're not sure if she was divorced. Then he died. So we're not sure if she a divorcee or a widow. We're not sure. Then she married within 3 months somebody else. Then you're not sure, and they had a kid. So you're not sure, number one, if the kid is his or whose kid it is. And number two, even if the kid was from a Kohen, right? Even if the kid was from a father, maybe she was an almana, not a grusha, right? We don't know. So it's a kind of a spec. So she's possible Kohen. Why? Man Mako, everybody who's the most lenient of these three opinions we just had. If you can marry the daughter, you can marry the almana. Like in the case, you can marry the daughter was a bas ger amoni moavis. You can marry the daughter because she's amonis, right? So nases beat nasa muso. Choshi et nases beat et nasa muso. Lemute almonasisa shepsu lukona because it's a suffix. We don't know what she is. You wouldn't be able to marry her, right? Almonasisa, you can't marry this daughter. Because the daughter of an Amanasisa, we're not sure if she's a Chalal or not. This excludes from Fountain the Tanan, hey, Rabbi Yeshua, Yehuda ben Beses, more and Subas also Rabbi Daniels, Amanasisa, Shekshera Lakuna. They hold that she's kosher Lakuna. My time, I'll be Spek Sveka Lakula. It's called the Spek Sveka. Rashi here says that Spek is because we're not sure if her father was a Chalal or not. And she came from him, so it's called like a Spek Sveka. It's not a regular kind of a Spek Sveka. The Spek Sveka that I mentioned in Subis is the real Spek Sveka that it is. In other words, we're not sure if she's even the daughter of a Chalal, right? Because we're not sure if the Kohen was married to a Grusha or to an Almana, and we're not even sure if it's his kid. So that's how you have a Spek Sveka, complicated case. Okay, so anyways, that's what Spek Sveka. Now we're going back to our mission. Even though we said at the beginning of the parak that all the people who are puzzle, so to speak, the non-Kohanim Levim Israel, who are they? They are, we said, Mamzer Nasin Shtuka Asufakul, they're all Mutter Lavav Zeh. In the last mission that we had yesterday, Rebbe Lozer, we have it constantly Rebbe Eliezer, but the side of things answer Rebbe Lozer says, no, only a body mamzer can marry another body mamzer. Any other suffix, you're not sure when one's a mamzer, one's not, therefore they can't marry. And what is this? A Sveika, Shtuki, and a Sufi, and a Kuti. Kuti is also a suffix, as we'll see. We're going to talk about Kuti later on in more detail today, what the suffix was there. So, Rabbi Lazar. Again, Nalach is like Rabbi Lazar, that, we pass like Rabbi Lazar, that only a Vade Mamzer can marry another Vade Mamzer, or he can marry a Ger, of course. A Ger, we said, we had Ger to marry. But if it's a suffix Mamzer, you don't know. How do you have a suffix Mamzer? So we'll mention a case like that later on. Today, you have a lot of suffix mamzers. People get married with a proper wedding, then they become non-religious. They got divorced with a reform rabbi. It wasn't a proper divorce. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a conservative rabbi. There's a lot of questions that come up. You're not sure. So if you know if one's a body mamzer and one's a suffix mamzer, they can't do the marriage. Maybe the suffix mamzer is not a mamzer. So that's what Rabbi Lezer holds. Rabbi Lezer holds Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Yehuda, after Rav died, he went to learn in Shmuel's yeshiva. When it says from Shmuel, Amali, Shana Hill said in our mission, the first mission. So Yosan al Babel, and all the ones who were not Kohanim Levim Israel could marry one another. Meaning even the Asufi and the Shtuki, the ones who were Svekas and the Kuti, all these who were Svekas, we don't sure what their such is. They can all intermarry even with the Mams. He said, let's like a blazer. So we have this difference of opinion over here. Rav says, Allah is like a blazer. Only a body mamzer can marry another body mamzer, suffix not. And Shmuel says, no, we go like the Tanakama, that they could all intermarry. Okay. Rami to Rav, Shmuel. Now we're going to have a steer and Rav, a steer and Shmuel. Again, Rav says a suffix cannot marry a body mamzer. Shmuel says he could. Arusa Shi'ibra. You have a case where a girl's in Arusa, she's engaged, she's betrothed, but she's not married to the guy yet. So she's still living at home with her father. All of a sudden, she's pregnant. People looking at her. What's going on over here, right? Arusa Shibra, Rab Amr, the Plaza Mamzer. Plaza Mamzer, after all, most people that she would have slept with would have, 99.9999% of the world is forbidden to her because she's only allowed really to be with her betrothed, right? Even though she's not supposed to marry him yet, but if she lived with the betrothed, it wouldn't be a Mamzer. But anybody else would know. Rav said Vlad Mamzer, Shmuel Amr Vlad Shtuki, right? Rab Amr Vlad Mamzer, Umut Mamzeris, Vlad Mamzer. right? But wait a minute, didn't Rav Paskin like Rabbi Lozer that it's a suffix, and a suffix shouldn't marry Bani Mamzer? Shmuel Rav Vlad Shtuki. Also Mamzeres is Shtuki, Mashra Shtuki, we don't know what it is. It's Mashra, it's also Mamzeres. So again, they seem to reverse. The Gemara says Eipach, we'll turn it around. Rav Omer of Vlad Shtuki. Rav says the Vlads, we're not sure. And if it's not sure, can't marry a Mamzer. Shmuel of Vlad's Mamzer for sure. Since 99.999% of the world is forbidden to her because she's betrothed, the kid's Vadi a Mamzer. And the kid's like a Mamzer. The Gemara says, Tarti Lami, what do I need both cases? What do you need our Mishnah? And what do we need this Brisa here about Arusa Shebra? So Stricha. On the first case of our Mishnah, if a woman is, let's say, is pregnant, we don't know who the child is, but if she's not betrothed, most people are kosher to her. So of course, it's only a suffix of mamzer. Only if she slept with a mamzer or she left with somebody like a mamzer, like in a sin, maybe then we go. But it makes sense to say she's not for sure a mamzer and she couldn't be married to a mamzer, this child, because we don't know who the child is. Reason to say most as far is to say that the kid's not a mamzer since she's a pnuya, since the mother was not married. So she got pregnant. Okay, she got pregnant. She slept with somebody. The odds are the kid's not a mamzer. So there you said Abu Hasim the Rob Sumas, but where she was betrothed and she's pregnant now and she's not living with her husband, the odds are to say that she is a mamzer. Kid's a mamzer still. I think he's moted to Shmuel that what? That this child could live with a mamzer because the child's probably a mamzer. Kamashma, no, it's still a suffix. Tell me the second case, you know why Rav says over here that it's a suffix? Because okay, she's betrothed, but the chances are, you know, she has a husband, she has a fiance, so it probably, you know, they went out on a date and things got out of hand. You know, something happened. Probably it came that way. That's why the kid's not a mamzer, and therefore he shouldn't be able to marry a mamzer. This daughter cannot marry a mamzer. But in this case, what? In the case where it's a maybe motor to Shmuel that the kid could be a mamzer and could marry another. Therefore, you need both cases. But don't turn it around at all. Leave it the way it is. Where Rav says where the betrothed girl is pregnant, she is a mamzer. My mamzer to come Rav. My mamzer to come Rav. That they come Rav. Lav mutter mamzeres. Not that she's mutter to marry a mamzer. When he says Rav says it's a mamzer that the betrothed woman was all of a sudden pregnant. When he says mamzer, it doesn't mean that she can marry a mamzeres. This means that also marry Israel. So kids are shtuki. We don't know who the kid is, right? We don't know what the kid is. Shmuel Amar Vlad Shtuki. And Shmuel says the Vlad Shtuki in what sense? Shmuel says that all Sfekas could marry. The also Babas Israel. Yeah, you could marry a mamzer or an Asin or another Shtuki or somebody like that, but you can't marry a Bas Israel. That's means Shtuki. So wait, so that's the case. Rav and Shmuel both saying the same thing. Rav says the kid's a mamzer. Shmuel says it's Shtuki, and they're both saying, and you're saying that they're both saying that they can't marry a Bas Israel. So they're saying the same thing. My Shtuki din kuna that the child can't marry a Kohen. So Pshita obviously can't marry a Kohen. Hashim b'din Yisrael, and if you keep away from Yisrael, you can't marry a Yisrael. You didn't couldn't be boy, certainly can't marry a Kohen. In other words, this child is Shtuki. We don't know who his father is, and he comes along and says, "I want part of the Yerusha." He makes a claim. A man dies, and he says, "That was my father. I want part of the Yerusha." You know, he obviously goes after the millionaires, right? I mean, he looks in the paper, he sees which millionaire died yesterday. He says, "I want to share." How can you make a claim? We don't know who his father is. He has no. They don't have DNA in those days. We don't know any. There's no reason to believe that that's his father. We don't know his father. Let's refer to the toughest. Even if he grabbed it. In other words, there was they went to probate court and they were dividing up the Rusha, a bunch of people, and he says, "I'm one of the sons. I'm one of the sons too," which is because he's also entitled. Again, you see over here, Rachel asked me yesterday about this that even if it didn't come from wedlock, that he's one of the sons. A son is entitled to Yerusha if he's a son, no matter if it came from a marriage in wedlock or out of wedlock. He says even the toughest because we don't know who father is, and if he would know who his father is, he can make a valid claim. I'm the son. He has a real paternity case. Then he's entitled to Yerusha, right? Pardon? If he can prove it, he can prove that he's from the father. Today, DNA, let's say, or some other reason, or the father admitted at the end, even if it's not a wedlock. But over here, we don't know who the father is. The father's dead now, and the real sons have a claim. He doesn't have a claim. That's the point. We don't give him a Yerusha. By saying my shtuki betuki, what shtuki means is like we had the other opinion of the Abba Shol, right? That or the end of the Mishnah, the first Mishnah, wasn't an Abishalom, meaning you check him out. Shabbat can we check his mother. The kosher, if she says I married, I had bia with a kosher person, meaning not a mamzer, then she's believed. So who's that? It's like Ramlila we mentioned yesterday. Shmuel already said that. What's Shmuel telling me over here? That Shtuki, that he's a Beduki, that we don't know what it is, and you check it out by asking the mother. Shmuel already said we passed like Ramlila. That's not. Haisim embarrassed you the morning Subas. Haisim said she was pregnant for Amrullah. They said Mati said, where'd you get this child from? Ishpanim Cohen from this guy's coach doesn't mean Cohen in our sense of real priest. It means he's a proper Jew. He wasn't a mounser. Ramlila she's believer. Bishua Omer ain't a manas. Right, we right? But we passed the Ramah, so we already know that the law is like Ramah. So what's Shmuel teaching me here? It says Stricha. We're getting the wide lines now on I and Ham and Al. Stricha. Email some if Moby I mean a rope channel. So there where she was a Knuya, and most people are kosher. She's just a single woman. So the odds are that that she had bia with somebody who wasn't the mamzer. There you believe her. Avlach the rope sula mesla. But over here, we're talking about a case of Arusa Shibra. Most people are puzzled to her because she's only allowed to really be with her fiance. Amalo, I think she's not believed. Therefore, you're telling me you believe that too. Tanya. Now we're going to come to talk about Kutim. Who are the Kutim? Right? And some Chayrim mixed up to everybody in Chayrim. He put everybody in Golas, took them in Golas. He brought this sect of people that we call Kutim, they're from Kut or whatever, and brought them into Eretz Yisrael. And there's always a question: did they convert properly or not? Rav Blazer says, again, it's Rabbi Lazar. It's Rabbi Lazar throughout from the Mishnah and the Gemara. It's Rabbi Lazar, not Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar Omer. Kuti lo yisa kutis. This is what he says. A kuti should not marry another kutis. Now, what are we saying over here? Rabbi Lazar is going basically with this shita that a suffix shouldn't marry a suffix, right? You have a person, this person's a bade mamzer, if you would know such a person. There are people that, these are bade mamzer, right? You know that they were married properly, and she committed adultery, and she admits it, and the kid's for sure a mamzer. That's a bade mamzer. A suffix is, you don't know, was it a proper marriage, was it a proper divorce, etc., etc. So he says a suffix should, and even if two sveikas shouldn't marry one another. That's Rabbi Lozer's opinion. That's how he paskin. Not paskin that way. That a suffix should marry a suffix because maybe one's a mamzer, one's not. So you should. He says a kuti should also not marry a kutis. Now my time. Now what's the reason? Tos says right away. What do you mean my time? Rabbi Lazar himself said a suffix shouldn't marry another suffix. So Tos says he says that if they're both mamzerim, as we'll see, because they came from goyim and they didn't convert properly, let's say, and they're both mamzerim, then they're mutter. And even if they're not, even if one of them's a mamzer and one's not a mamzer, but he's a ger, and a ger can marry a mamzer. That's the question over here. What's it based on? So why can't the kuti marry another kuti? My time. Amar Rabbi Yosef says asu keger lachas adoris. Now a ger can marry a mamzer, right? And a ger who marries another ger, the child's the son of a ger, according to some opinions we'll see. Tanya ger adasar dos with the mamzeris. If a ger marries a Yisrael, the child's a Yisrael, so then it shouldn't marry a mamzer. But let's say Gerim continue to marry in the Gerim community. Like they stay in that community of Gerim. Talk about, let's say, the sect that came from India that Rabbi Michael's father brought in. What do we call them? Forgot Bnei Menashe, whatever. They pretty much stay within their community, right? So like they were Megayer, who's Megayer than Misafik, and they stay in their community. So until 10 generations, they can marry a mamzer because they still have a lach like a ger. If they all stay within the community, afterwards, you can't marry a mamzeris. Right? Until there's no idolatry left in them. In other words, it's gone. There's absolutely no shemet. There's no taint of idolatry within them. The ger originally over the avodah zarah, so once the taint is gone, now they're not allowed. In other words, even though technically they can keep on marrying a mamzer if they just stay within the community, but until generation. Why? Because they shouldn't. Why? Because afterwards people think of them as Jews. They're keeping mitzvahs, they wear tefillin, they go to the yeshivas, etc., etc. So people think of them as Jews, and people think, that a regular Jew could marry mamzeres. So after 10 generations, they're not allowed to. So so what the explanation is, what Yosef said over here, that a kuti marries a kutis, they made the same halacha. That a kuti shouldn't marry a kutis anymore because it's a suffix what they are, and the chachamim made them like a ger, like Gerim after 10 generations that they can't marry a mamzeres anymore. And here's a suffix what they are. How can you compare? Awesome, Ger Yashan Mamzeres Chadasha. There you talk about a Ger has been a Ger for many generations, and now you're saying can a Ger after many generations of being Jewish, in other words, his father was a Ger and the grandfather was a Ger, etc., but he's been around for a long time. The community, whatever you call their last name, the Joneses, they were called Joneses, but they all, they, even though the children, but they were acting Jewish for a long time. And it's a new mamzer, so people will think that a Jew can marry a mamzer if you allow them after 10 generations to marry a mamzer. So Amri Bar Yisrael, who the mamzeres will think this is a Jew marrying mamzeres. How could that be? They'll think that a Jew can marry mamzeres. But over here we're talking about a kuti and a kut. This is the same thing. If they've been around for a long time, so then they're known as Jews, and if they're not been long, they're known as Gerim. Ella, so why can't a kuti marry a kutis? What's the problem over here? Ella, Omar, he says, Rabbi Lazar, who forbids them, like it's Suffolk Rabbi Shmuel, he holds like Rabbi Shmuel, and Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Kiva. Who's Rabbi Shmuel? Who's Rabbi Kiva? Rabbi Lazar, Suffolk Rabbi Shmuel, Damar Kutim Geri Arais. Question: when the Gerim that Secher brought back and brought them there to Israel, and they live, some associate them with the Shomronim, the Samaritans, whatever lived in the Galil, and Shomron. Some say that we don't really know, but he says Damar Kutim Geri Arais. They were forced. In other words, the lions came out and they were forcibly converted, so to speak, by the lions chasing them. So they converted out of fear. They weren't real converts. They were really goyim. They never really converted properly. Okay, that's what Rabbi Shmuel. So number one, he holds Rabbi Lazar holds like Rabbi Shmuel that the goyim were never, that the kutim were never proper converts. And Rabbi Shmuel, this same Rabbi Shmuel who holds that kutim were not really converts, were not kosher converts, holds like Rabbi Kiva, something like Rabbi Kiva Omer of the Now we hold that way. We hold that if a goy lives with a Jewish girl today, it's important to know that because today we have goyim, right? We don't have a bottom made people. We have a we don't have a bottom. We don't know who that bottom are. We hold the child's a kosher Jew, not a big yichus, but child's kosher Jew. He held, Rabbi Kiva held that a kid's a mamzer. Therefore, all the kutim who were not proper converts, they're goyim, and if they slept with Jewish women, the children be mamzerim. So therefore, you have fakest mamzerim among them. Rashi says that Tavai is fake mamzerim. Therefore, they're both of them are suffix mamzer. We don't know for sure. Maybe some of them converted properly, or even if they were all goyim, we don't know if one of their grandchildren converted properly, or maybe these converts slept with Jewish women. The children would be mamzer, and mamzer makes a mamzer forever. Once a mamzer, always a mamzer, unless you're retired by making the ship and all that. So, pardon? Only according to Rabbi Kiva. So let's say, why does Rabbi Lazar say that a kuti can marry kutis? Because they're all suffix mamzerim. They're suffix mamzerim because they were never converted properly, and if they slept with Jewish women, because they said they converted, they claimed to shul and said I'm a convert. They slept with Jewish women. Those kids would be mamzerim. Some yes, some not. We don't know each case. So therefore, the suffix mamzerim. Therefore, they can't marry one another. Okay, that's his opinion. But the Gemara says, does that make sense? You're saying number one, he holds like Rabbi Shmuel, who says what that they were not converted properly. Number two, Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Kiva that the union of a goy with a Jewish woman will produce a mamzer, so they're all suffix mamzer. That's more misa Rabbi Shmuel. You want to say that Rabbi Lazar holds like Rabbi Shmuel, and Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Kiva, but Rabbi Shmuel doesn't hold like Rabbi Kiva. When we say Rabbi Shmuel like Rabbi Kiva, yes, Rabbi Shmuel says they weren't good converts, but he doesn't like Rabbi Kiva. Or Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel is listening. Rabbi Shmuel said, how do you know if a goy or an evet slept with a kahanis, any Jewish girl, shepastua ruins her from marrying a Kohen ever again? Reading Chumash Emar says Bas Kohen, a daughter of a Kohen, right? Kisi al Grusha. She married, let's say a Bas Kohen. Bas Kohen can eat truma. She marries a non-Kohen, can't eat truma. Let's say her husband, who's let's say Yisrael, divorces her. She's or dies on her. If she's an almana grusha and she has no children from that Yisrael, right? So she can go back and eat truma. Who's allowed to go back and eat truma? Only if she's an almana or grusha, meaning she was properly married to Yisrael. You can't be an almana or a gerushin from a goy or an ebed. Why? Because it's not a proper marriage. You can't be an almana from somebody you can't be married to. if a guy marries a Jewish girl even today, right? Is it a marriage? It's not a really marriage. They might be sleeping together, they might have children together, but it's not a marriage. So there she can eat truma again. But if she slept with a guy or an eved, she can never eat truma again. That's what he said. It's in law. If she was divorced or widowed from a Jewish man or Yisrael, she can go back and eat truma in her father's house. But if she was divorced or widowed from a guy, she's ruined. She can't eat truma. If he holds like Rabbi Akiva, what do you mean? He holds like Rabbi Akiva. If you say this is what Rabbi Shmuel says, Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Akiva. What do you think about? She's puzzled from eating truma. The kid's a mamzer. If Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Akiva says that a goy or an eved who sleeps with a Jewish girl is a mamzer. Hashta mamzer having nifsim before. You're talking about being puzzled from because of his bia. If a goy if a goy or an eved sleeps with a Jewish girl, that ruins her from eating truma again. What do you mean eating truma? The kid's a mamzer, right? Hashta mamzer having what do you mean? Just yatsa because eved sheino manas v'gusha. They can't eat truma. He's like that. So like Rabbi Akiva. Hashta mamzer having. In other words, the child of that union would be a mamzer. Of course, should be pasubia. If that union would produce a mamzer, if a goy or eved sleeps with a Jewish girl, produces a mamzer according to Rabbi Akiva, and saying Rabbi Shmuel goes like him, kid's a mamzer. If a union produces a mamzer, certainly that's puzzle. Ella, so you can't say Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Akiva, but you don't have to say Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Akiva. Just say Rabbi Lazar holds like Rabbi Shmuel, and Rabbi Lazar holds like Rabbi Akiva. Ella Rabbi Lazar said like Rabbi Shmuel. He holds that kutim are not real converts. And he holds like Rabbi Akiva, so he holds that way. Now, so you don't have to say that Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Akiva. Just say Rabbi Lazar holds like Rabbi Shmuel that these kutim were not real converts, and also since they weren't real converts, they're kids of mamzerim. So therefore, the kutim today are all fake and mamzerim. But even that doesn't work. When we say Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Akiva, this Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Lazar. Listen to this. Okay, before we finish kedushin, we're going to have a throwback to the beginning of Yevamos, which drove you crazy, right? Beginning of Yevamos says, right, if there's 15 arayas, that if a man dies, right, since and dies no children, Reuben has no children, his brother is supposed to make Yibam on Leah. Okay, let's say Leah is Shimon's daughter. Reuben was married to his niece, right? So there's no Yibam over there. But not only that, if he had another wife, Leah, and he had another wife, Sarah, so there's no Yibam for that either. That's what Basil holds. The Shammai holds know that Sarah whenever does make Yibam. So here's a problem. It says over there, remember the Gemara says they intermarried because they checked it out carefully. Even though Beisham Basil said that Saros, they argued, can the Sarah of an erva, the Sarah of that daughter of Shimon, right? I mean, she was at Sarah when she was married to Reuben. Reuben died, right? So Sapater, Beisham says no, you make Yibam. So here's the problem. The problem is, according to Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai's women could produce mamzerim, because according to Beis Hillel, not only is Leah obviously cannot marry her own father, right? Shimon her father, but Sarah is also there's no mitzvah of Yibam. Since there's no mitzvah of Yibam on Leah, there's no mitzvah of Yibam on Sarah either. Therefore, it says mitzvah. Like I said, it's like a man dies and has children. Is his brother supposed to make Yibam? No, forbidden. It's mitzvah. So according to that, it's in Issachar, the kids would be mamzerim. In other words, Beis Shammai's heter would make Beis Hillel mamzerim. According to Beis Hillel says what? That Sarah should just marry somebody in the shuk. Okay, the kids, Beis Shammai wouldn't say that's a mamzer. She's just Yavamah l'shuk. It's forbidden, but it does make a mamzer. But according to Heter Beis Shammai, the Beis Shammai says you make Yibam, they still would hold those to be mamzerim. But even though they argue about this, whether these would be mamzerim or not, their motive mamzers are only mishay isu iser erev anushkaris, not isralav. Rabbi Akiva holds that it's isralav makes a karis because Rabbi Akiva holds that the iser of a Jewish woman sleeping with a guy is an Isser of Kaddish. You're not supposed to sleep with a guy. You don't see a Kaddish or Kadesh. You can't sleep with a guy. It's an Isser Lav. Doesn't make a mamzer. Okay, that Rabbi Akiva holds it does make a mamzer. So here you see Rabbi Lazar holds not like Rabbi Akiva. So why does Rabbi Lazar say Kuti can't marry Kutis? Ella ki Asaraman can't marry Tisrael, not like Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi said because he holds like Rabbi Shmuel and he holds like Rabbi Lazar. That doesn't work out. When Rabin came from Eretz Yisrael, he explained it differently. Like he asked Rabin, he said the name of Rabbi Yochanan. And some say it was Rav Abba Bar Zabda, said the name of Chanina. Rabbi Yaakov Baridi, Rabbi Shuman Levi, Shalosh Malchus of David. There's three shittas over here. There's three machlokas as to what the situation is with these putim. Rabbi Shmuel Sober Kutim Geriaris, and they were effectively forcibly converted and never agreed, and therefore they were not really good converts. The Kohanim who got mixed up with them, who intermarried with the Kutim by mistake, whatever. Kohanim Sulim, they're puzzled because they intermarried with these goyim. Shenemar Vayasu and Miksosam, and he made from Miksosam means from some of them. Kahanim Bamas, they made them the Kahanim of the high places. What does it mean? From the thorns among them. In other words, they appointed these to be Kohanim, but it was really the thorns, meaning the ones of Mishmachim Basunim, because they intermarried with Goyim effectively. These Kohanim converted. This is Rabbi Shmuel's opinion, that Shmuel says that the Kutim were not real converts. They didn't agree. They were forcibly converts. They weren't converts. And Kohanim who married them intermarried with them, and therefore the Kohanim were all puzzled because they were married to Goyim. Whatever the reason was, even if they weren't, even if they're not mamzerim, but they were mingled with Goyim. Pardon?
Saying that there's something Jews. So
they're what Jews?
They're Suffolk Jews.
Suffolk Jews, right?
Okay, so the Kohen marries a Suffolk Jew, so the kids
Suffolk might be Goyim. Maybe that's right. That's the problem. We don't know what they are. They might be Goyim, may not be. We don't know. That's Rabbi Shmuel's opinion. Okay, that's Rabbi Shmuel's opinion. Says something we don't know who they are. Right. Rabbi Kiva Sabar Kutim Geir. He says no, they were proper Jews. They converted properly. So what's the problem? The Kohanim Shittabem Kohanim Cheir. They were proper Jews, and the Kohanim who mixed with them, who intermarried with them, are all kosher because they were good converts. Good converts. Now, we're not saying that a Kohen could marry a Giores among them, but over the generations, right, they had other children, he converted. We're not saying that, not that a Kohen can marry a Giores, but they converted properly, and they married properly, and the Kohanim who got mixed up with their children, Shenemar Bayasul explains the same passage. Bayasul Miksosim, from some of them, they made some of them Kohanim of the high places. Yom, what do you mean some of them? Miksosim means some of them. You could either translate the first way, Bishmol says kotza means like the thorns, Miksosim from their thorns. No, from some of them, from the best of them. From the choicest of them. In other words, they were fine people. So why can't you marry a Kuti? Kuti's fine. What's the problem? Listen to this. They said that Yibum only applies. Remember, what is Yibum? Reuben's married to Leah, right? He dies with no children, so Shimon marries Leah, right? They said a strange thing. They said you only perform Yibum if Reuben actually never consummated with Leah. He was engaged to her, betrothed to her. Now the halacha is, if Reuben is betrothed to Leah, never finished the marriage, right? He was betrothed to Leah, and he dies with no children, there's still Yibum, right? There is Yibum there. But they said it's only Yibum in that case. If he was fully married to Leah with no children, then she doesn't have to make Yibum at all. No Yibum, no Chalitza, she can marry anybody she wants. So because they said that's strange halacha, they explained things. The Kutim among them. They converted properly, and they mixed with the Kohanim, they're all fine. But they had one problem. That's why they asked them. They would make Yibum on Arusas, which was okay. But they said if you're fully married to Leah, in other words, like this, if to say if Reuben actually slept with his wife, then his brother shouldn't sleep with her. Like they said that. They said according to Rabbi Kiva, they would be mamzer. So what are we saying over here? Rabbi Kiva suffered, they were properly converted. They converted properly, and the Kohanim mix them, they're okay. But you know what? There's a problem. They make an out of mamzerim. They make mamzerim. Why? Because they say that a Yavama, Reuben's married to Leah, fully married, no children, he dies. Shimon doesn't have to make even to her. She can marry Lashuk, she marries Chutza. Now we hold that קידושין is not chal there. Even if you hold that קידושין is chal, not like a Bekiva, קידושין is chal and Chai B'Lavan, we hold the Maisa to look that קידושין is not chal. But does it produce a mamzer? Not according to us. It's Yivam Lashuk, it's a lav. Rabbi Kiva holds that a lav makes a mamzer. So they make mamzerim. We'll pleasure with suas. Rashi says, Mina chalitza. It says, no, Yibam no chalitza. You're potter. If you're married to him fully, Yibam only applies when they're betrothed. Not if they're married. That's what they held. Well, that means that all the Yavamas married, all the ones who were married, right, with no children, and the husband died, they got married to anybody. and they get married to anybody, according to Rabbi Kiva, that would be they would produce a mamzer. My dash, how do they dash? She says, the one who's on the outside, meaning she's not fully married yet, she's only betrothed, she's on the outside, she hasn't yet entered the canopy, so to speak. So she shouldn't marry an outsider. She should make Yibum. He lo see zar. The one who's not outside, the one who's fully married. They had this strange rush. In other words, they were good converts, but they messed up. They didn't learn in yeshiva. They didn't learn like us. They didn't understand the real pshat of they darshan it that way. They didn't have they were mistaken. Makes mamzer. Rabbi Kiva Tamedam yesh mamzer mechav lavan. That's the problem. They were good. They were originally good converted. Fine. So we have these different opinions. Rabbi Shmuel says they weren't real converts, and therefore they're suffix, etc. Whether you hold their mamzer or not, they could, like you said, it could be suffix goyim. Rabbi Kiva held that there were mamzerim among them because they said all these yavamas should marry Lushik, makes a mamzer. The Yeshomrim, this is the opinion that we're looking at. Rabbi Lazar, we're going back to explain Rabbi Lazar. Why can't a kuti marry a kuti? The Fishaim became the mitzvahs. They're not careful in mitzvahs. What does that mean? Man Yeshem, who's that? Rabbi Barabad, Rabbi Lazar. And here again, we have a picture of Rabbi Lazar, but it's probably Rabbi Lazar. Netanya. What are they all Rabbi Lazar? Matzah's kuti muteras. It says the matzah of a kuti that they kept a lot of Jews. In other words, they converted, but they didn't keep everything properly. But matzah they did properly. We have a shita, for example, that you can eat the matzah of a goy on Pesach, but you must eat a kazayas on the first night of matzah shmura prepared by a Jew. Rabbi says, you know what? You can be yotzei dechov because when they converted, but they didn't keep things properly. And matzah they did properly. You can rest assured it's good matzah. It's good matzah, shmur matzah. That's what Tanakama says. Rabbi Lazar, right? The Tanya matzah is good with there is what Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar oser. He says why? They're not careful with the details of the mitzvahs. In other words, just like they weren't careful, according to Rabbi Kiva, with the idea of Yavam L'Shuk, and that made Mamzerim. He says they're good Jews. He says, yeah, they're Jews, but they don't keep everything properly. You know, whatever you want to call them. They mean it, but they don't keep running. So you can't really be yotzei with their shmur matzah. You should know mitzvahs that they keep more carefully. The ones that they keep very properly, more properly than we do. They don't keep everything properly. Pardon? Yeah. So what do you mean over here? They're not bekian. So what do you mean? Rabbi says Lakisha and bekian. The mitzvahs from Shmuel says, look, the mitzvahs they keep very carefully. He says, what's bekian? Shem bekian b'tar skiddushin. They don't know the rules of getting in skiddushin properly, and therefore, if they don't know the rules of getting in skiddushin properly, that fosters mamzerim. Right? Because you think, oh, I got married, divorced, you don't need Adam. We know you need Adam, right? Or they don't know the details of giving a proper get. They don't know it because they have to make some mamzerim. And that's why they're all sfeikis mamzerim. So we're going back to Rabbi Lazar to explain, a kuti should marry a kutis because they make a lot of mistakes. Maybe some are proper Jews, they converted properly, but maybe another kuti among them is a mamzer because they don't keep the rules of getting institution properly. Correct. Same problem today. You're saying the same problem today? Yeah. Because we don't know. You don't know. Yeah, there's so many divorces among Reform and conservative Jews. And we said, you know, if they were married by a Reform rabbi and divorced, it's the same thing as they were really married. But maybe they did maybe there were proper Adam there, et cetera, et cetera. We don't know. That's the problem with Mamzerim today. That's why you have to check today. Okay, so that's problem. Another problem. There are two kinds of mamzerim. There's a we discussed the mamzer me'achos, like we hold. Mamzer me'achos, that's isser koris, if a man slept with a sister, right? And ashes and mamzer me'ashes achnis arvu bohen, right? So these kinds of mamzer me'ashes like case of me'ashes got mixed up among them. The asher mamzer me'chavi priest, right? So what is he saying over here? He's saying there are some mamzerim who committed incest with a sister. Got mixed up. What? If you want to tell me what's the chiddush that we hold? Remember, Rabbi Kiva holds this mamzerim chayv elavim. Rabbi Yeshua, and we had yesterday, Rabbi Yehuda holds that's only mamzerim only from adultery, meaning from where there's punishment of bezin, where there's a capital punishment by a bezin, like a man who slept with somebody else's wife and had a child there. That would be a mamzer. It's Sarkoris like a choso or a shesach, not a mamzer. That's their opinion. We hold, like the middle opinion, that yesh mamzer mechaybe priestess, right? We discussed this yesterday, right? Like whose opinion? Shimon and Tamar Kol Shechayim Lav Kares Mishran. So what are you trying to tell me that these kind of Amzerim got mixed up among them too because they didn't know the rules of getting in Kedushin? Yavamas, etc. They got mixed up. So say one. Why do you tell me both? Mamzer Me'achoso and Mamzer Me'achoso Sisters. Avram, Mike Mashmon, the Yesh Mamzer Mechavi Priestess, which is what we possibly like Shimon and Tamari. That's the kind of list one of them. Why do you have to say both? Choso and Eshesach, what do you have to list every Yisr Karis? So the Ma'aser Shoy Kachoy, he's not telling you additionally, he's just telling you that there were among them cases of incest, children who were the result of incest, either from a sister or from a sister-in-law, and there were both of the kind of cases. Yes, one telling you that there was from one of them, that would have been enough to tell me that there's mamzerim among them. But he's just telling you that both those kind of cases actually happen. Eved b'shifta nesavra b'hen nesavra nesur. In other words, there were slaves, both male slaves and female slaves, got mixed up among them. So isur mishumai mishum shifta. Don't forget, we hold that an eved or a guy who sleeps with a Jewish girl, not like Rabbi not like Rabbi Kiva. We hold that if a guy or an eved sleeps with a Jewish girl, the child's a Jew. Now the guy. So what's the problem with that? If a guy slept with a Jewish woman, right? She wasn't married. She was married according to many. The child's not a mamzer. So what's the problem here? Why talk about an eved that get mixed up with a Jewish woman? The child will still be Jewish. Shifra is the problem. There might be a shifra because that kid's an eved. This is how to just say the case of shifra. Right? Rashi says, if you sleep, if a man sleeps with a shifra, even if he's Jewish, the child is a slave. The answer is, he's just telling you that both are Badim and shifras. What would ruin them, what would ruin the kutim is because maybe there's shifras among them. So at the end of the day, right? But it just tells you that both of them happen to be. They both Abadim slept with them and some of them slept with Shavachos, so therefore their children would be Abadim. So at the end of the day, what's the problem of kutim? There's suffix if they're mamzerim, right? Suffix if they're mamzerim or not, because they didn't keep the real rules, even though they converted properly, they didn't keep the real rules. Not only is suffix mamzerim, some of them could all be avadim or shefchos, and therefore that's also a problem. And since it's all sfekas, even a kuti shouldn't marry another kuti. And Rav Lezer goes to shita that only a mamzer vadai can marry another mamzer vadai. He could also marry a ger, but a suffix mamzer should not marry a mamzer. And that's a Sufi and Shtuki. These people who are sfekas, or a kuti is a suffix, should not marry a mamzer, because a kuti might be a good Jew, may not be. We don't know. Tomorrow's Daf is Daf Ayin Vav will be on the podcast, and on Sunday, Mitzvah Hashem will start with the Mishnah at the top of Ayin Zion. Shabbat Shalom L'Kulam. Stay safe.
Shabbat Shalom. Stay safe, everybody. Regards to everybody.
Yes, immediately.